All right, so now we're going to be talking strictly about just exponential functions. We're going to be talking about exponential growth and decay. Now, we use exponential growth and decay when we are increasing or decreasing by a percentage. So it may not be like, oh, I have a population of rabbits and they are doubling every year. That would not be exponential growth or decay. When I'm talking about exponential growth or decay, it would be something like, I have a population of rabbits and the population is growing by 2% each year. So we're growing or decreasing by a percentage. Now, when we're dealing with exponential growth, we still have the standard exponential function of y is equal to a times b to the x power. Your a is still your y-intercept, or where your graph starts. So, for example, if I say, I have a population of 1,000 rabbits that's growing by 2%, your A would be 1,000 because we started with 1,000 rabbits. Your B is your growth rate, but in exponential growth, it's going to be, it's going to have something to do with that percent that you're growing by. Now, if I say the population of rabbits is growing by 2%, we do not just put 2 in for B. Instead, your B is equal to 1 plus your percent expressed as a decimal. So my percent expressed as a decimal of 2% would be 0.02. And then I would add 1 to that, so it would be 1.02. And that's what would go in for B in your equation. Now, we know something is exponential growth when your B value is greater than 1. Because we will also be dealing with exponential decay. And we will need to determine whether we're dealing with an exponential growth type of equation or an exponential decay type of equation. And so for an exponential decay, you're decreasing at an exponential rate, and again, it's going to be decreasing by a percentage. So maybe we say, I start with a population of 1,000 rabbits, and the population's decreasing by 2%. And that would be exponential decay. You still have your equation in y is equal to a times b to the x power form. That's always going to be the standard exponential equation. Your a is still your y-intercept, or where you start off at. So the population started off at 1,000, so a would be 1,000. And b is called your decay rate. We're decaying by 2%. That does not mean that 2 goes in for b. Your b for exponential decay is 1 minus your percent expressed as a decimal. So my percent expressed as a decimal of 2% is 0.02. Doing 1 minus 0.02, that's 0.98. So 0.98 would be your b value. So if I was given an equation, we can determine if it's exponential decay if our b value is somewhere in between 0 and 1. We cannot have a b value less than 0 because that would give you a negative b value, and we're not going to be growing or decreasing at a negative rate because that wouldn't be possible. So in this lesson, we are going to be determining whether we're dealing with growth and decay, or and we're also going to be determining the initial value, which is the y-intercept, and we're going to be determining the percent written as a percentage. So for numbers 1 through 8, we're first going to do, is it growth or decay? How we determine if we're dealing with growth or decay is we look at our b value. If our b value is greater than 1, then it's growth. If our b value is in between 0 and 1, then it's decay. Your b value is always the one that is being raised to the x power. So for number 1, my b value here that's being raised to the x power is 0.01. So that means since it's in between 0 and 1, this is decay. For number 2, my b value being raised to the x power is 0.9. Since it's in between 0 and 1, it is decay. For number 3, my b value is 1.06. Since it's greater than 1, this is growth. Number 4, my b value is that 1.28. Since it's greater than 1, this is also growth. Now, some of you guys might be thinking, what is my b value in number 5? Well, we would need to simplify this 1 minus 0.35. That 1 minus 0.35 is going to be a 0.65. So my b value is 0.65, which is in between 0 and 1. So this is decay. Same with number 6. I would first need to simplify my b value. A 1 plus a 0.03 is a 1.03. And since it's greater than 1, this is growth. For number 7, my b value is 0.87. Since it's in between 0 and 1, this is decay. And then lastly, number 8, my b value is 1.99. Since it's greater than 1, this is growth. All right, so that's how we determine whether it's growth or decay. Now we're going to be determining the initial value, which is your a value, the number that's being multiplied by your b to the x power. For number 1, this is tricky because there's no number written in front of that 0.01. Now that does not mean that your a value is 0. No, because a 0 times a 0.01 would just wipe out that 0.01. Your a value here is 1. For number 2, your a value, the number that's being multiplied by your b value, is 7. For number 3, your a value is -2. For number 4, your a value or initial value is 9. For number 5, your initial value is 700. For number 6, your initial value is 2. For number 7, your initial value is 10. And for number 8, your initial value is 15. All right, so now we're going to do our percent. We're not doing our percent expressed as a decimal. I'm not asking you to write down your b value. I'm asking for the complete percent. So your b value for growth is 1 plus the percent expressed as a decimal, whereas your b value for decay is 1 minus the percent expressed as a decimal. Since we're dealing with decay in number 1, my b value is 0.01. So I'm going to take my b value and I'm going to set it equal to 1 minus the percent expressed as the decimal. And I don't know what my percent expressed as a decimal is, so I'm going to just leave that as my percent expressed as a decimal. That's an unknown. So now I'm going to solve for my percent expressed as a decimal by first subtracting 1 from both sides. I wind up with a -0.99 is equal to my negative percent expressed as a decimal. I'm then going to divide by a -1 on both sides to get that my percent expressed as a decimal is 0.99. Now, percent means out of 100. So in order to get the percent expressed as a decimal into percentage form, I would need to multiply by 100. A 0.99 times a 100 is a 99%. Your percent goes after the number, so we do have to write 99 and then the percentage symbol. Great. We're going to do that again for number 2 because this is a decay as well. So my b value, I'm going to set my b value equal to 1 minus my percent expressed as a decimal. Now I'm going to solve for the percent expressed as a decimal by first subtracting 1 from both sides. A 0.09 minus a 1 is a minus 0.10, or a negative 0.10. And that equals my negative percent expressed as a decimal. I'm now going to divide by negative 1 on both sides. And I get my percent expressed as a decimal to be 0.10. Percent means out of 100, so I need to multiply by 100 to put this in percentage form. I don't want it in decimal form. And a 0.10 times 100 is a 10%. Moving on to number 3. This is growth. So this time my equation is b is equal to 1 plus the percent expressed as a decimal. So I take my b value of 1.06. I set it equal to 1 plus the percent expressed as a decimal. I'm now going to subtract 1 from both sides. And I get a 0.06 is equal to my percent expressed as a decimal. Percent is out of 100, so now I multiply by 100. A 0.06 times a 100 is a 6%. My next one is also growth, so I do the same thing. I set my b value equal to 1 plus the percent expressed as a decimal. Solving for that percent expressed as a decimal, I subtract 1 from both sides. I get my percent expressed as a decimal as a 0.28. Since percentage is out of 100, I need to multiply by 100 to get that my percentage is 28%. Number 5. My actual b value after I simplified is that 0.65. This is decay. So I take that 0.65, I set it equal to 1 minus my percent expressed as a decimal. I am now going to subtract 1 from both sides to get negative 0.35 is equal to my negative percent expressed as a decimal. I'm now going to divide by negative 1 on both sides, and I get my percent expressed as a decimal as 0.35. Since percent is out of 100, I now multiply by 100 on both sides, or multiply my decimal by 100 to get 35%. Next one, my simplified b value is 1.03. This is growth, so I set my b value of 1.03 equal to 1 plus my percent expressed as a decimal. Subtracting 1 from both sides, I get a 0.03 is equal to my percent expressed as a decimal. Multiplying that percent expressed as a decimal by 100, I wind up with 3%. I'm going to have you pause the video and try the next two on your own. Okay, so we should wind up with 13% and 99%. That is it for the level 1 videos.